Zdravo, Tung. Welcome to Dialogue Corner, a podcast hosted and produced by a group of young women from Belgrade and Prishtina, alumni of the OSCE Dialogue Academy. In our podcast, we will try to bring different guests, such as prominent members of Serbian and Albanian societies and members of the international community, in order to share interesting stories and thoughtful insights. Also, we aspire to introduce our network to a larger audience and to create a community based on values of dialogue and gender equality, as well as share them not only with Albanian and Serbian communities, but throughout the entire region. Today with us we have Françeska Muço. Thank you so much, Françeska, for joining us. Françeska is an Albanian civil society activist, and since an early age she has been very active and passionate about civil rights and youth engagement in democratic processes by designing and implementing several projects and campaign related to youth and empowerment of women and education. And currently Françeska is filling in some interesting decision-making positions as she holds the position of the Secretary General of the Young Professionals Network of Albania and is a youth representative of Albania in the governing board of the Regional Youth Cooperation Office. Hi Françeska, thank you for joining us.
Hello, Anya. Thank you very much for the invitation and for the great initiative that you have undertaken. I really appreciate it, and also thank you for introducing me.
Hope I didn't miss anything, as you're really active and you're a prominent member of Albanian society. So in case I have missed something, feel free to.
You were awesome as always.
Thank you. As I have already said, you take some really interesting roles and hold some really interesting positions. And one of them is a position of youth representative of Albania in the governing board of RYCO. And it kind of functions based on a co-management system of decision making. So would you let us know and say something about the co-management system, as it is really interesting?
Yes, I will. I don't want to sound with a lot of theory, or very technique, but it is very important to set a common ground, what we understand with co-management system on decision making. And so I will explain a little bit, and furthermore, we can see how it functions in RYCO. So the co-management system of decision making is an evolving concept where the governments, together with the user group, develop different policies. And furthermore, they work towards implementing them as a unit. So according to different management books, co-management or collaborative management is defined as the sharing of power and responsibility between the government and local resource users. And this type of mechanism can happen at different levels of decision making and can involve different actors of society. So it can take place at the central level, local level, and with the commercial, private sector, civil society, local communities, and a whole range of other public and private actors. So having this kind of mechanism is positive for several reasons, because it hinders centralization, is a good solution to many problems that can come from our type of governments, etc., etc. But I would single out the fact that it serves as a conflict resolution mechanism and power sharing. So as you can easily imagine, this partnership among government and users or representatives of a specific target group is quite important to maintain the balance, but in the meantime, a little bit difficult. At the end, there are a lot of pros and cons for this type of mechanism, but in my opinion, it still represents a good way to maintain the balance and to secure youth participation in decision making.
Thank you so much, Françeska. So how does it function in the governing board of RYCO?
As you might know, the governing board of RYCO is conducted from 6 representatives of the ministries or state agency in charge of youth and 6 youth representatives from each of the contracting parties. The youth representative from each of the contracting parties have been selected in different methods from youth organizations. What I do consider as very important within this structure is the fact that we have equal power of decision making, or in the moment that we want to undertake new initiatives which we do find relevant, and having access in different important documents of RYCO. So RYCO represents a unique system of youth empowerment through participation decision-making processes. Anyhow, the fact that we already have this kind of management mechanism doesn't mean that there is no work to be done, since the role of the youth representative within the governing board should be strengthened and the selecting mechanism should be institutionalized to never leave room for misrepresentation or mismanagement. Anyhow, from all the experience which I do have representing young people in local level or in other entities in national level, RYCO co-management system of decision making represent a very good example where being part of the board you have full access of information and there is a sense of accountability and transparency.
Thank you so much. And it sounds really interesting how the co-management actually really brings power and empowers different groups such as young women or youth in general to be treated as equals and to participate decision making as equals. Do you see it as such? Does it really help young people to influence decision making as equal, or is it pretty much just stays in theory?
I really believe that it helps young people influence decision-making and as equals. And I would like to separate the last one in 2 main directions, at least how I have seen from my experience. Firstly, on a personal level, being in this kind of position positively impacts your personal and professional growth. And because as you expand your network, you have more responsibility to a broader target group, you understand more what does it mean being part of a functional governing board. You are in front of government representatives. You understand more means of transparency and accountability. You are in touch with different types of procedures, but it also makes you more, how can I say, awake that we have more common problems, common challenges to work on than reasons to fight. So without any doubts, when it comes in a personal level, and here I don't think that I speak only for myself, but also for my colleagues or other people that has been in the same position, it really impacts you in a positive way. Secondly, in a broader perspective, decision making has a direct impact on the life of young people, which, as you know, are the largest percentage of the population in Western Balkan, at least as we speak, because with those migration trends, we don't know how the region's demography will look like soon. So having youth in equal decision-making positions in the table where discussion and decision youth-related are made is crucial for taking measures that really matter for youth quality of life. And taking into consideration the last one, this kind of system has really impact, but has also affect the life of young people in the region and the role model that they have.
I completely agree with you because I would say that something that is really common for all of the young people in the Western Balkans is that they are actually excluded from the decision-making processes, and they also feel discouraged. Even though they would like to be part of the decision-making processes, they do not feel like they can really influence them. So having you as youth representatives and seeing you, or at least knowing that you represent them, they represent their voices, I think it is really important and empowering for young people, and also you as young people making decisions for the young people. What kind of decisions you actually make through the governing board, and how you can actually affect different programs, projects, I assume, that are being created or implemented?
Taking into consideration that youth representatives are voted or selected from youth organization, they serve as a bridge of communication for youth concerns, but also as youth interest advocates. Saying that, we often try that in what decision we undertake, or in what new projects or new initiatives we do, to take into consideration the concerns or the opinions that we have gathered from a youth organization or from other stakeholders that we are in contact. For example, here I can take you an example, the youth strategy that RYCO that RYCO is working to develop. And as you might know, there have been several consultations with different stakeholders of the society. So the strategy that we will have to be as much as we can comprehensive, but also to address what really matters for young people in the region. And on the whole consultation processes of the strategy, the youth representatives have been involved, but also they have had different roles according to their work experience, and according to where are more their interests, if I can quote it like this. But also, as you were saying before, with the work that we do as youth representative at the RYCO, I really believe that it serves mostly as a source of motivation to understand and be aware that policy making and institutions belong to young people. And there is not any reason why not being involved and why not being active. And with the example of the co-management, it is really highlighted and put it into the place.
Thank you so much. And I would also like to ask to say a final question. Why is it important for young people like yourself, like your counterparts, but in general, young people to cooperate on the regional level?
I can say a lot for this question, but I will try to keep it short. Firstly, in my opinion, youth connectivity helps to break stereotypes and prejudices for the beautiful people of our region. It makes us understand that wars do not belong to the people, to the citizens, but to the wrong policies and certain people. And in my opinion, this is like the most important thing that we can have from youth cooperation in the region, but not the only, because also youth connectivity can create communication bridges between the young people that is necessary for having good relationships and cooperation between different stakeholders in the region, and for having a common vision on addressing and solving the problems of young people, the problems that we have. But trying to connect education, technology, history, etc., at the regional level creates improvements in the education system, and not only of those countries, but enabling the professional development of young people and the removal of the cultural and historical stereotypes. The continuity of the latter is that it increases socialization among young people by having focused on how important it is to create youth connectivity at the regional level for having a future with new generations who are nurtured by regional cooperation and mutual dialogue. So I tried to keep it short with this question, but without any doubt that I can continue more.
It is such an inspiring topic, so you really kept it brief, and I'm sure you can go for much longer, as I would personally be able to do so, because again, it is such an important and beautiful topic as well. It also, as it seems, because in each episode we introduced a word of the day, and since co-management system seems that to empower you both as a young woman but also as a young person, I would like it to be a word of this episode. In Serbian, to empower, we would say osnažiti, and empowerment would be osnaživanje. So how would you say it in Albanian, Françeska?
So osnažiti, or to empower, in Albania is to fuqizoj.
To fuqizoj.
Osnaživanje, or empowering, in Albanian is fuqizohem.
Fuqizohem.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I hope our listeners have been able to learn 2 new words, or at least 1 word, depending which language is their native language or they speak. I would conclude our episode here, and I would like to thank you very much for presenting this interesting concept. I think, as you have said, it has been a concept in the development, in the making. So I'm sure our listeners have been able to learn something new, to hear something new, and hopefully some decision makers also have been introduced to this concept, and we'll utilize it in the future to include young people, young women, and in general marginalized group into decision makers. So thank you so much for presenting it.
Thank you, Anya, for inviting me again, and it was my great pleasure to have this discussion with you and to learn a new word in Serbian.
More than glad to welcome you. So thank you all for listening to our episode, and stay tuned for the following one.
Thank you for joining us for the episode of Dialogue Corner. If you liked it, make sure to visit our social media platforms at Dialogue Academy, as well as to subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, make sure to tell your friends about it and share it with your colleagues, and help us in our mission to share the values of dialogue and gender equality. You can also join the conversation by leaving a comment, since we are looking forward to hearing your opinion about this topic. Become a part of the dialogue.